The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies and also by the generous donations of you, the listener. A huge thanks goes to Marcus Wheeler, Tobias Whiting, Alex McIntosh, Peter Millen, David Jakausin, Keith Erickson and Glenn Oberhauser. Thank you all for your very generous support. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 185. Banter from the Bunker, the mid-November edition. With hosts Neil Shuck, Mike Whitaker and Dave Luff. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. I'm Neil Shuck, and I am joined by Mr. Mike Whitaker.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Cake Snatcher.
It's legitimately acquired cake this evening.
Oh,
A very nice slice of chocolate cake baked by my lovely wife from the recipe books of the Blessed Nigella, not to be confused with the Saint Delia.
Ah, well...
It's very nice.
Yes.
We are turning into Test Match Special, aren't we?
With one fairly major difference.
Nobody sends us cake?
Indeed. Yes, if you want us to become the wargaming equivalent of Test Match Special, folks, we need more cake. I'm sorry. Simply down to that. And while we're at it, we'll talk to somebody who is so healthy because his body is such a temple, he will not eat cake. The Luffmeister himself, Mr. Dave Luff.
Will not eat cake. I'm slightly partial to some occasionally.
I thought you were on this thing where I eat healthily and don't touch chocolate and crisp rubbish.
Well, no, I don't. Very rarely.
I thought cake would just be partially included in that.
No, definitely not.
Well, there you go. So there we go. Cake, definitely. I go for all of us. So general appeal, I suppose.
if you cut a cake in half, it's half the calories.
No.
Half as much to get.
No, I was going to say if you cut a cake in half, it's 0 calories because all the calories fall out.
No, it's not. That's biscuits. Everyone knows that. It's biscuits. Broken biscuits don't count.
I'd point out that so far in the lifetime of this podcast, we have never actually successfully managed to cut a cake in half.
That is very true. Anyway, what's the phrase? Moving swiftly on from cake-related matters, or although we might return to those later. Right, something a bit different now, as you've noticed, and I have already blogged about, because of the fact that we can't shut up. And
our guests can't shut up.
Well, I wasn't going to put it quite like that.
Our guests have lots of very, very interesting things to say, which it would be remiss of us if we didn't bring to you, the listener.
Thank you. That's better. But essentially, what was going to be a quite long show got so massively out of hand. I turned around and said, there's no way we could release that as a single show. So I thought, okay, best thing we could do is split it all up. So I decided that we would split it up into smaller shows and release those on a more regular basis.
Can we go for less irregular?
Excuse me, this year I think we've actually been fairly good.
Less infrequent?
Less infrequent. Put it this way. We were going to produce shows, more often than we were before. Especially since we had quite a bit of material. And then, of course, the decision becomes, what do you split it into? And then, obviously, interviews kind of split into themselves. And game reviews, you know, they all kind of, you know, they split to themselves and they kind of title themselves as well. So that's not a problem. And then you have all the other bits. Us waffling on about what we've been up to and talking about the news and various other bits and pieces. Now, I am given to understand that in itself is quite popular. And
you mad fools.
But at the same time, it was a case of, okay, so if you gel all that together, what do you call it? And then Mr. Whitaker has just had a brainwave. Have you not, sir?
It's rare, but it does happen. So subject to everybody making really rude noises and disliking it greatly, this segment will henceforth be called Banter from the Bunker.
Indeed. So welcome to the inaugural episode of Banter from the Bunker.
Which will still have a Meeples and Miniatures sequence number, you understand. It's just that we'll label it as Meeples 18 whatever Banter from the Bunker.
For mid-November. Or what have you, or early December, because
since we last did it,
yes.
Since we overran and had to break the shows up,
we are doing all the usual segments that we would normally do, except we don't have the interviews and the reviews and everything. Okay, so it's just the us bits, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Probably no more sense than what we normally make, but there you go.
If you feel that your life is not complete without the Os-bits, bear in mind that there will be intros and outros on all the interviews, which will also be Os-bits, just shorter Os-bits.
Unless, of course, it's really late at night, in which case it will just be me. Because everybody else will have been sensible and gone to bed.
Does that mean a return to Whispering Neil?
Nah, because Ange sleeps like the dead these days, and Josh, I'm not going to wake Josh up, because he's not here anymore. So, no, I can burble away in the corner to my heart's content.
Just like normal, then.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway.
So what's on this episode of Banter from the Bunker, then, Neil?
Banter from the Bunker. Right, okay, so we have a chat about what we've been up to. And then we cover some news items. We have a section of Mailbag. We thought we'd slot a section of Mailbag in. And finally, we even have a new section for you. Well, it's kind of newish because we just kind of renamed it a bit, okay? We've got a bit of a rant in a new section that we called Very Grumpy Gamers. Lots of stuff to look forward to. Well, I hope you're going to look forward to. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about what we've been up to.
The eagles have gone. Britain lies defenseless in a cruel world. Since the birth of our Lord, it has been 456 years. What sins have we committed to bring this punishment to Britain? I speak, of course, of the Saxons. They came as allies, but now they seek conquest. The lands of the Britons lie ravaged before them. Blood runs red in our island. We need a leader to stand against them. We need a man to bring together the Britons in common cause. We seek a Dux Britanniarum.
Right, that's enough of that. Dux Britanniarum from Two Fat Lardies. They really are very good.
What have we been playing? What have we been buying? We might even have painted something. The Meeples and Miniatures crew reveal all. So, what have we been up to? Well, since I started the last couple, I think it's somebody else's turn.
Luffy.
Oh, it normally involves what I've been doing is what you've been doing anyway, doesn't it, Neil?
It does a little bit.
Sounds so wrong in so many ways, that does, but there you go.
It does. Well, I mean, you never know. You might have kind of done something. You might have done something radical, like you might have actually kind of finally stopped beating around the bush and started, painting some more stuff.
No. I did look at some stuff today and thought it needed painting, but no. We had a trip down Beast Towers, didn't we?
We did.
Which was quite an enjoyable day. And we've been playing a bit of Conan, haven't we?
Indeed, Conan appears to have taken over our gaming sessions, isn't it?
That's right. We sort of said we really do need to get back to finishing that campaign of Cock. Not allowed to say that anymore. What are we calling it now?
Well, yeah, it's
Shaynock, I think, wasn't it?
Chain of Command, yes.
Yes,
yeah.
Chain of Command.
Indeed. Yes, we are actually, radically considering planning more than 1 day a week gaming.
Yeah, but it's radical stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
Although, interestingly, when putting that proposal out into, what am I trying to say? When floating
the domestic authorities.
Indeed. Yes, the domestic. That's an excellent phrase. Yes, was not met with the division I expected. So,
as in, thank God he's out from under my feet.
Yeah, quite possibly.
I have a similar approach in that the Monday night club sessions pretty much being grandfathered into schedule, and works the dog track on a Wednesday as the duty vet. So I podcast. Will be doing.
Yes, so it is possible that we may be gaming more than once a week. Shocking indeed, horror.
Shocking indeed, horror.
Yes, so we've been playing Conan. So, what do you think, then, Dave?
Yeah, well, it's very good, isn't it, so far? Mustn't grumble. Very nice.
Oh, what do you mean, mustn't grumble?
Well, mustn't grumble. It's very good, isn't it? Well, I'm quite critical, aren't I, of games? So,
you are?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
It's actually unusual for you to turn around and say, "Whoa, this is a good game," because normally it's all right, I suppose.
Yeah. It's been very well put together. There's lots of choice. It must have took a hell of a lot of play testing, or we haven't found all the bugs in it yet. We'll try and break it. I normally try and break it. I haven't managed yet. Yeah, but it's going well. Yeah, to get the game balanced, it's Yeah, I mean, it is tough, isn't it? I mean, that first scenario, we played that twice, and it is tough. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's one each at the moment. And this is supposedly the easiest scenario in the game.
Yeah.
Although, admittedly, the first time round, you did accuse me of failing to fully inform you of the scenario limitations, didn't you?
Well, never mind. I didn't realise I had to kill the bloke and find the princess, but in the end, I didn't do either anyway.
Well, no. There is that, but it is a very well put together game. It was interesting because we've been discussing for a while, looking at getting a dungeon bash sort of thing together, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's something that came from you.
Yeah.
Which shocked me because I was thinking,
what? Well,
it's not historical.
I'm still looking for it. Well, I'm all right with fantasy. It's sci-fi. I'm not so great with, but I will do a bit of it. But yeah, I'm still looking for a co-op decent dungeon bash that I like. That the dungeon is self-generating.
Yeah.
Dungeon Saga, probably.
We're still waiting to be invited to Peterborough for a game.
You have a standing invite. Just take it up.
I didn't think you'd even got it out of the box yet.
And
what he's saying is he's looking for an excuse to get it out of the box.
Well, here we go then, Mr. Luff. Yeah, the challenge has been laid before us.
Oh, I guess that'll be happening over Christmas then.
Yeah, because that was a Kickstarter, wasn't it? Dungeon Saga? Was it?
Yeah.
Originally?
What's the phrase? It's mantic. Of course, it was a Kickstarter.
Well, yeah, silly thing, really, wasn't it? Yeah.
But it is interesting. I mean, despite the fact that it's not a dungeon sort of thing, Conan has it is a very kind of co-op party sort of feel to it. Even having just played one scenario, I mean, there has been a lot of stuff flying around about whether that's quality of some of the figures or whether it's quality of the rules. Well, I think the quality of the rules or the complaints about how the rules have been somewhat overplayed. They're not as bad as people are making out.
The rules are sort of laid out a little bit differently than a lot of rules, aren't they? Because we missed stuff, didn't we? Before
we did.
Before we were looking for stuff and then going, oh, it's down there, and it's as clear as day if we actually looked at it properly. But we weren't sort of using it like you'd use another rule book, if that makes sense.
Yes, there are things which I kind of assumed, which you shouldn't really do. There are issues, and I'm not denying there are issues, but it certainly isn't broken.
But we do live in the wonderful world of the internet, don't we? So, and that's what it's there for, isn't it? I mean, as we were talking about this years ago, you'd get the game.
About Kickstarters.
Well, yeah, that as well. But I mean, it's like computer games or board games years ago. You'd buy your stuff, and that'd be it. It'd be unsupported, really. You'd have to wait for a 1.2 or whatever. But nowadays, everything's sorted within a few weeks.
Nowadays, I mean, like if you buy a computer game, especially a PC version, you kind of buy it and you expect to kind of install it, and the first thing it does is look online and go, "Oh, downloading 17 gig worth of patch,"
thereby ensuring that your brand shiny new "I have a new game, I must play it" experience is completely ruined for at least 7 hours.
unless you have the very latest in fibre broadband technology or what have you.
And even if you do, James bought, is it Battlefront 1? Battlefront 1, the World War I one?
Oh, yeah.
A couple of weeks ago. Actually got it as, stupidly, it turns out the cheapest way to buy it is to buy the download code in a box from Amazon. Seriously, it's cheaper to buy the download code in a box and have it shipped to you than it is to buy the download code direct. Don't ask me why. Download, install. First thing it does, of course, he says, and now I'd like to update it. And download the rest of the extra content. So, yes, I know you can start the game, but you're going to get 20 frames per second for the next 7 hours while I download everything else.
Indeed.
So, a bit of a one-game month by the sound of it.
Bit of a one-game month. Yeah, you could say that.
Conan, Conan?
Conan, indeed, yes. And as will be tomorrow, Conan again.
More Conan.
And more Conan, and complete lack of painting. Now, people will notice that Mr. Hobbs isn't currently on the show and won't be around for a few weeks. And unfortunately, I was hoping... we'll have to quiz him next time he's on, because it has to be said he's doing a rather nice job of painting these Conan figures, isn't he?
Oh, he is, isn't he?
Yeah, and I need to. I think I need to go and sit at the feet of the Welsh Wizard, so he can teach me how to paint flesh. Because I am rubbish at painting flesh at the best of times.
Because let's face it, when your Mythic Battles Kickstarter turns up, you're going to need to know how. Indeed. And there is a lot of flesh also on show in the Conan Kickstarter, and it's not all Caucasian. Hobbs is doing a fantastic job of painting these figures. And it's interesting because it also really goes to show that one of the issues, I think we talked about it a little bit about, the issue with the different colour plastic for the lighter colour plastic for the hero figures. And it is interesting that then, having seen Hobbsy painting his figures, the details there, it's more difficult to see. I think you don't get as much because of the lighter grey plastic. You don't get as much contrast.
Right. This is when Neil brought the stuff around the other day. We got them out of the box, and that's the first thing I said, wasn't it, Neil, to you? Said the colour plastic is making a difference on the pickup of the...
One of the things you could try, if you want to see where the detail is, before you actually start painting them, just ink wash them.
Yeah. Said that as well, didn't we?
You did?
Great minds think alike.
Yeah. I knew I liked you for a reason, Luffy.
No, it was quite interesting, actually, because it's the same sculpt. if you happen to buy the extra purchase, which was the Wolf Pack, I forget which character it is, but one of the characters in the box set, in the Kickstarter box set, has an ally of a wolf. And it's
a bit of very anemic plastic, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the same figure. But it's exactly the same model, but one's in the lighter grey plastic, and one's in the dark grey plastic. And you put them side to side, and they look almost like different figures. So as you say, part of it is the contrast.
Until you properly look at them, don't you?
Yes.
Properly look at it, and you suddenly go, hang on a minute, the cuts are exactly the same.
So again, what a lot of people have said, and it's true what a lot of people said, and say I think Hobbsy in painting what he's done has shown that those lighter grey figures are not as bad as people are making out that they are. Even the fact that
I thought they were when I first looked at them, but I think what it is that, as I said, the lighter colour is not only the lack of contrast. For some reason, with the lighter colour, the detail looks softer.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Even though it isn't.
All to do with how light refracts off a surface, don't you know?
Oh, indeed.
Sorry, that's a bit of colour theory that was from my Paint and Decorated. There you go.
Well, 1-to-1 painting. Who'd have thunk it was useful for other stuff?
That's it.
Absolutely.
2 hours. Was it 2 hours? 2 hours on a Friday afternoon talking about colour theory. Lovely.
So yeah, I'm definitely hoping to get some painting lessons from Mr. Hobbs regarding painting flesh. But as you say, I get the feeling over the next 12 to 18 months I'm going to be painting an awful lot of it.
You painting?
Yeah, I know it's bizarre, isn't it? But there you go.
You said it was a board game. You said to me the other day, so it doesn't count, so you don't need to paint it.
There is that. I mean, because obviously there is the slippery slope. That all you need.
Once you do one figure,
you have to do everything. And let's face it, there are an awful lot of figures in Conan.
That is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't just paint one figure.
Yeah,
and it just looks wrong.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, interestingly, again, looking at, we were looking at Mythic Battles last time round, and, looking at, again, the stuff they're producing for that. And, oh my word. Can't remember if I don't think it quite come out when we were talking about it. I think they published it the following day. But things like the Poseidon expansion. With Poseidon and Scylla. And it's like, oh my word! They've just done Hecate, who again is all the Warriors of Troy box set. But this is the news. I think we're diversing into news and what have you. But seriously, nice figures need to learn how to paint more. Anyway, so that's kind of us. Just to complete me before we go into you, I haven't done anything else. Done no painting. I've been podcast editing. That's about it.
Well, there you go,
Mike.
I've been playing one game, as you may have noticed.
Hang on, so we've been playing one game, and so have you?
Yes. Only I've been playing I Ain't Been Shot One a lot. At least 3 club nights on the trot, which is pretty much since the last podcast.
Yeah, and not only that, you've been playing it with your own figures.
Well, no, actually, sort of.
Sort of-ish.
Yes.
Cool.
So ran a couple of scenarios for club. Ran one a couple of weeks ago, which was just a straight. Let's use the standard forces from the book scenarios and run it on the table, stick it on the table with a reasonably decent-looking terrain layout, and let them get on with it. Which was a bit one-sided due to some really interesting dice rolling, card draws. 2 Mondays ago, Monday before last, was the infamous Convoy game. For those who've seen the pictures on Facebook or my blog, which included 4 feet, literally, of 3D printed trucks. And as Neil, who I think has seen one of the Deuce and a Halves, will attest, they're pretty good.
They are.
I sent you a photo, didn't I?
You said yes. You sent me a photo, but yeah, they do look pretty impressive.
Yeah, so they're from Marcus Bergman, who is a designer who publishes all his designs for non-commercial use for free on Thingiverse, to which more power to the man's elbow, especially since he seems to have just survived the New Zealand earthquake. He sent me a photo yesterday of the state of his computer room, which basically has books and CDs and random bits of yellow printed 3D stuff all over the floor from when he got back got back home after the earthquake. Apparently, he was quite spectacular over there. So we wish all our New Zealand listeners well. I hope you guys are all okay.
Indeed, certainly.
Yeah. But yes, and Monday this week was an interesting little scenario, which I'm not going to go into too much detail because if it works, we're going to play test it again next week. Hopefully going to wind up in the Lardy's Christmas special.
Ooh.
Being a little sort of slightly Hollywood, but not much. What if, non-historical Normandy scrap involving both the British, the Americans, and the Germans.
Ooh.
It's the British pulling the Americans fat out of the fire, basically.
Well, which will
say that?
I don't know. There will be a small prize for those, if it does get published, for those of you who can tell me the naming scheme behind all three nations' big men.
Well, there we go.
They're nearly the same, but not quite. So, yeah, I've been having a great deal of fun with that. Other than that, that's pretty much all I've been doing, apart from writing the odd blog article, which I'm sure will please Neil.
You've been silent for an awful long time. Basically, ever since you came back from America, it's been from somebody who was so prolific.
Oh yeah, it's been one of those. The problem is once you drop it, it's really hard to start it again. It's like painting. And also, when we got back from the States, it was pretty much straight into show preparation, which was pretty much every free bit of time we got redrawing the floor plan and other things. And then there was a sort of a September of going, thank God we got rid of that. And I just started picking up now. So it's been good. I've enjoyed blogging again. So hopefully things will continue to gather momentum.
Cool.
So that's pretty much me, I think.
Okay. Well, I think we're all done then. So what we'll do, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll catch up on some of the stuff that has caught our eye in the hobby news. Announcements, new releases, Kickstarters. What's caught our eye? It's time to catch up with the Meeples and Miniatures hobby news. So, news time. What's caught our eye this over the last few weeks? Humongous amounts of Kickstarters flying around at the moment, aren't
there? One or two.
Obviously, we've talked a lot about Mythic Battles recently, which Luffy still hasn't pledged for.
Well, no, I'm in trouble again. But yes, because you snaffle all the best up for then you tell me about it afterwards. That's the thing. Oh, have you seen this? Oh, there's no point you buying it though. Why's that? I've already pledged. Got that everything. Oh, right, okay.
Mm-hmm. What's the phrase we're using here? Poor impulse control.
Poor impulse control, yes.
Yes, it's a TIE fighter with its manoeuvring drive shot.
Well, that's one thing when it comes to I'd say it's more like Magpie.
I've been very good over the last year, but there's been a couple of there's been 2 or 3 really nice Kickstarters over the last month or so.
Well, the trouble is, we always used to say that board games don't count, but the problem is, I think that the games manufacturers of the world have got onto this and realised that so many gamers are saying that board games don't count. So all they've done now is just bring board games out with a shed load of figures in. That's what's going on.
Yeah, he's not wrong, you know.
They're
he's
going,
not.
They think we've got round you, but we're not. We're going to change the system.
Mr. Dave Luff, amateur psychologist. Yep.
Yeah. Here's a board game, and here's 600 figures to go with it. Ah, no, can't compute. PayPal.
Yes, Mythic Battles. Yeah, it's a board game, except actually when you look at it, okay, it's got board game mechanics, but it's a skirmish war game. Hybrid. Yeah. Anyway, so
it's the future to relieve you of all your hard-earned cash.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, especially once Pledge Manager comes out for that and for Deep Madness. Oh,
and as long as some nice person in the Mythic Battle team will kindly do the adding up for me, I'll be fine.
Yes, lots and lots and lots of nice, pretty stuff. And of course, Conan's about to hit retail, and so hopefully early next year. All the stuff that I didn't pledge for that is coming out in April with the second pledge, like the expansions. I didn't pledge for the expansions, and
very restrained.
Well, I was. Because I thought I'll wait. Obviously, Mr. Hobbs did, but that would basically mean that come June.
Of course, Hobbsy did. Hobbsy would be in if he had to pay to get out.
You thought Neil was the poster child for impulse control.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, there is a difference between Hobbsy and Neil.
What's that then?
Well, the obvious.
One's Welsh, the other isn't.
Well, yeah, there is that. But obviously, Hobbsy gets his stuff actually painted up.
I wasn't going there.
No, sorry. You pushed me.
Anyway, there's loads of Kickstarters happening at the moment.
We could mention, for instance, friend of the show.
A friend of the show.
Dice Bag Lady.
Indeed, Dice Bag Lady. Now,
tell them about it.
Annie has been somewhat reticent to use Kickstarter. I mean, funny enough, I think if you go back and listen to our interview with her, we actually discussed this. But she's finally decided that she was going to bite the bullet and actually do a Kickstarter, and was wondering just how popular that may be. So, funny enough, on the evening we are recording this particular segment, which is the 16th of November, at 7 p.m, which was 3 hours 20 minutes ago. Annie launched her Kickstarter, which is called The Ghosts of Gaia. Okay, which are post-apocalyptic heroic 28mm scale female fighters, which when you look at them. When I look at them, I kind of think that they're a little bit of a cross between some of the stuff we've seen on Cobblestone Future War stuff and the stuff that you might see out of things like Mad Max, and
with a healthy dose of Judge Dredd, Badland Mutants, and Tank Girl thrown in for good measure.
Indeed, and like Necromunda, and so basically all the kind of post-apocalyptic, near-future, sci-fi female sort of comic book-esque stuff that you might think.
Badass. Did we mention Badass?
We have now. Annie was wondering, is this going to take off? Is this going to be popular? Let's just say she went for £1,000 pledge goal. Okay,
and the rest,
which funded in 11 minutes. Actually, I think it was less than that. It might have been closer to 8 or 9. As we speak, as I said, 3 hours 20 minutes later, £4,767.
What? No, 4,816.
I failed to hit update. Yeah, I mean, nice set of figures.
125 backers already.
Oh yes, my system's just updated to say that. Yes, successful already. Well done, Annie. It's got another 11 days to go. I mean, it's quite a short Kickstarter in the grand scheme of things, but it's got 11 days to go. It finishes on the 27th of November. At the moment, there are 4 stretch goals for other female miniatures. So additions to the gang. I think she's got another 4 miniatures that are available as stretch goals, and then we'll see where we go from there. But congratulations, Annie. So Ghosts of Gaia. Nice little figure range for your post-apocalyptic. Sniper's lovely. I do like
and
that.
just a note, if you are mean to Annie, we will break you.
Indeed. Yeah, but as you say, some very nice sculpts. Well worth checking out.
And then, drawn to my attention by Mark Julian, who's still technically a member of Peterborough War Games Club, despite having very inconsiderately moved away and taken all his lovely 6 and 10 mil World War II and modern stuff with him.
That's most inconsiderate.
Oh, terribly. Well, he's now actually. I think he's in Leicester.
Is he?
Unless I've completely mixed up where he is. In which case, you probably need to talk to him.
Oh, right, okay.
Tabletop Hex Terrain Toolkit.
Oh,
Now, if
yes.
you are a fan of the Callistra stuff, you might like this. If you're not a fan of the Callistra stuff, you might actually like this because I think it's better. I know that's sacrilege. My problem with the Callistra stuff is because of the size of the hexes, it always feels a bit granular to me. And all Callistra tables do look the same to a certain degree. So what this is, it's not the terrain.
No.
What it is a set of MDF jigs that allow you to take pieces of polystyrene and cut yourself interlocking modular hex terrain tiles with various slopes on them, etc., 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 etc. Now, the idea is that you pre-prepare yourself a series of hex sections of the right size using your preferred choice of polystyrene cutting tool. Then you place your hex in your snugly fitting MDF thing, which has edges on all 6 sides that can be horizontal or sloped or so on and so forth. And then you take your hot wire cutter and you slice everything off above the edges. Which really sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. The video's a nice little demonstration. There's also rivers. They've got a nice modular river thing where you can have rivers that run either straight across a half hex or basically everything joins up on hex edges. And it does actually look rather good. And Mark, as previously mentioned, is, I think, pledging this because I suspect for his, he's got loads of 6 and 10 mil, for which this is going to be absolutely perfect.
Yes,
just there's commanding colours.
Indeed. Yes.
In 6 on this.
In 6 on now basically hex on terrain is 100 mil edge to edge. This is 100 mil corner to corner, so the hexes are slightly smaller.
The hexes are half the size. 100 mil edge to edge is 2 triangle sides across the middle of a hexagon. They're half the size.
Right, okay. Of course, yes. O-level geometry. Yes, thank you.
Yes, yeah, indeed. So, but yeah, they're half the size, which means that you can have a lot more, provided you're prepared to put in the effort, I guess, you can have a lot more. It doesn't have to look all so regular. And if you look at some of their sample boards, they're anything but, and they look lovely.
With the fact that you obviously they provide the jigs to do everything from just making your bog standard basic hex right the way through to doing all sorts of fancy things with rivers and making cliffs, and then there's a whole
trenches.
Trenches. There are 2 sets of tools which then make the whole thing interlocking. Because basically you're using either the simple one is hexagons, or actually he's got a slightly more robust one, which is like making things like snowflakes, which all interlock, so the whole thing locks together. It is really interesting. I'm very tempted. I am very tempted indeed. It does look quite labour intensive.
Yeah, it's not something you'd want to enter. It's you'd want to essentially make a commitment to being this is how I build terrain.
Yes. Let's put this out there. To buy everything you need in this jig, it's going to cost you 70 odd quid. Okay.
Plus a lifetime supply of polystyrene.
Plus obviously a lifetime supply of polystyrene, and I think the maximum depth of polystyrene it's designed to be used with is about 40 mil.
Really?
Yeah.
But there is nothing to stop you stacking hexes.
Oh well, it's fully designed to
exactly.
to allow you to do hex stacking and all sorts. And the videos are really good and shows how everything fits together. It's a really interesting system. It's designed by a guy who has been making terrain for a number of years, and he's been playing around with this for a while. I don't know if this is likely to be commercially available after the Kickstarter.
But
the reason
it's funded and to spare.
Oh, and then some. Yeah. It is. It has proven to be hugely popular. And
rightly so. It is really interesting. I mean, it looks really well engineered. It's really interesting. I mean, the reason I say I don't know if it's going to be commercially available was basically the Kickstarter was to get the whole, was to get the whole thing done, and the funding levels. Basically, it's a case of, well, he's turned around and said, yeah, there's not a lot of stretch goals because basically
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and you're paying for how much it costs to get the tools that you want cut, by an MDF laser cutter. Which is one reason why I wonder whether it will ever be a commercial product, or whether it will just appear as this Kickstarter, which makes life interesting because you might turn around and say, well, you might have a very limited window in order to go and grab it. But it is a really interesting.
That said, think about it. The way it's produced, he doesn't have economies of scale.
Well, that's it. No, he doesn't.
And if it boils down to it, if you don't mind, I mean, I suspect he's going to be keeping a MDF laser bloody hot for a while.
Hopefully
producing the pledges.
Yeah, hopefully he'll come back to it.
Once he's done that, if I mean, the position you're in is it's pretty much like 3D printing. That you can, I'm sure, if I were him, you could drop him a note and say, I want to buy this, this, and this, and he'll say, fine, give me a couple of days to warm the laser up.
Except for the fact I believe he's subcontracting the laser cutting.
Yeah, but that's sensible. That's sensible for the Kickstarter. But were it me, and I appreciate it's not me, and I may be talking complete wombats, but one of the obvious things to do at that point is use some of your Kickstarter funds to leverage a little bit of economies of scale on producing all the pledges and buy yourself a laser cutter, and then if anybody else wants it, shove the relevant data into the laser cutter and do product on demand for them as wants it.
Indeed. Sounds sensible to me.
What do you reckon, Luffy? Fancy having a table of this stuff?
Seems interesting.
It looks really good, doesn't it?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
It completely gets you away from that concept of my table is flat.
The way they've done the contours, there's like 4 or 5 different ways that you can run contours on hills.
Yeah, I mean, essentially you can have a hex that just has one corner, one level down. Anything up to 5 corners, one level down.
Yeah.
And then you just merge them all together. And if you look at his sample tables, they have that. It does rolling countryside really well.
Sample tables? I've missed them.
Have a look at the video on the top of the. Just look at the teaser shot for the video at the top of the Kickstarter, and you'll see what I mean.
You know what? I hate Kickstarter. I find it totally unnavigable.
Navigable.
I really do.
It's called
it's
called a scroll up and down button, Dave.
Alternatively, if you scroll down to sample finished terrain boards and look at the 4 or 5 pictures below there, you'll see they're all nice, sort of meandery, very rolling countryside kind of boards, and they work really well.
It gets away from this whole thing of my battlefield is flat.
Now, if I were, for the sake of argument, a certain gentleman from Second Thunder Games,
indeed,
I'd seriously consider building a couple of boards of this to take to shows.
Oh, yeah.
See where I'm coming from?
You listening, Carl? Yeah. 2 foot board. Yeah, 2 foot board.
2 foot board of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, build yourself about 4x2's worth, and then you've got options. But this for boards for second for open combat. Oh yeah.
And obviously, what you're doing is you're making an awful lot of generic components, which you can then swap around and swap in and out. And
of course, if you hit that awful point you always hit with modular terrain like this, where you get to putting together your board for your show, and you think, I need 3 more of those. It's not like you have to wait for someone to ship you them.
Yes, you can just go away and make them. Yeah, which is a huge advantage. Yeah, for the whole thing, it's charging £5 shipping, so it's going to cost you around. For the full deluxe set, it's going to cost you around about £70. but which is, when you think about it, one box of Hexon terrain.
Okay, so you're going to have to pay for the raw materials, but the raw materials are, well, depends on where you get it from and which particular variety of polystyrene you want to use.
Indeed. And, of course, you need a decent hot wire cutter, which has got, he recommends the one by Woodland Scenics, which I think is looking at prices, it's around about £35 to £40.
Yeah, or you go with one of the ones from Hot Wire Foam Factory for about the same price.
Yes. So, and they normally have something like a 4 or 5 inch cutting wire, which
is all you need because it's only 100 mil across the hexes.
Indeed, but that's basically what it's designed to be used with, and that's what he uses. Essentially, you're looking at an investment minus your raw materials of around about £100 to £120, and then whatever raw materials you use, and then obviously time. But what you can then produce.
It's not for me, but that's because I've rather nailed my colours to the mast of semi-modular 2 foot square, 50 centimetre deep, 5 centimetre deep foam board. But that's me. Were I starting afresh, I might seriously consider it.
There you go, Luffy. There's a Kickstarter you can back.
Thanks.
I have another. If you're, are we done with Kickstarters?
Yeah, go on then. I think so. Yeah, hang on. Let me just check.
Right.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
because I was looking the other day. Now, as I mentioned a little while ago, I'm a bit focused on. I ain't been shopping at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my plans for next year at the club is to run the Lardy's rather excellent Blennerville Bust campaign, courtesy of Mr. Avery.
Ah, yes, that is rather good. Yes.
It is, isn't it? For some reason, I can't actually persuade the bloody machine to do what it's meant. Ah, there we go. So, if one of the it's a genuine pyramid in that I think we reviewed this a while back, didn't we?
Yeah.
In that you start with one battle, and then depending on who wins, there are 2. Depending on who wins that, there are 4. By the time you get to, and I was only looking for this because it's been bugging me for a while. One of the boards, when you get to level 4, has a watermill on it.
Mm.
Now, you try finding a Normandy watermill in 15 mil. So, quite by chance, as I do occasionally, I was trawling the internet I was actually looking for something completely different, and I just happened on a search engine which gathers together eBay search results and Google had taken me to there in a search for 15 mil buildings, and I came across Starfort miniatures, who I have not seen before.
Oh, I think I vaguely come across these at some point. I think at the time I saw them, they were probably doing like 1 or 2 buildings.
Yeah, just a bit more than that now. They do a range of 15s, 20s, and 28s. And their 15 range is growing apace. It now has, you'll like this for your chain of command, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Any events on 12? 13. No, that one's not. So 12 or 13 different, not counting the ruined versions, Normandy buildings. Ooh. Including a watermill. In 15 mil.
Oh, yes. Yeah, these are nice. Yes.
That's going to be another Najovet's moment, isn't it?
They're MDF, aren't they?
They are MDF. They are unpainted MDF, so you don't... But, 2 things. They are unpainted MDF, so you do have to put a little work to them, but you don't get the foreground, everybody's buildings look the same thing. The other thing is that they provide... There's a couple of bits of plastic come with every kit. One of them is a set of ridge tiles.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, for example, the Normandy Doublestone Cottage on their website, you will notice that the roof actually has ridge tiles. You will also notice that the corner has you know how normally the foreground buildings have that pair of fingers that they sort of fake decorate to look like some kind of fancy brickwork. They actually provide you with a plastic piece to go round the corner to do the fancy brickwork properly.
Ah, yes. Mm.
And they are really rather nice.
I spotted these
Yeah.
a few years ago, if you remember.
On eBay,
Neil.
didn't you?
On
Didn't you,
eBay.
Dave?
I found these on eBay.
I think they've now firmed up their range a bit.
The picture on the main splash page, I remember, because this chap was selling just like one or two a week of these.
Yes.
Literally, it was one or two a week.
It was like the cafe shop, wasn't it? And the boulangerie.
Yeah.
But you notice how the range is extended now.
Yeah, now we've got most of our buildings. Because we liked them at the time, didn't we?
But
We did.
you can never have enough buildings. Come on. Can you actually fight over a town covering the whole battlefield yet?
We're not quite there.
Right. You know where to go then. but more to the point, from the point of view of scenario 4A in Blennerville or bust, there's a watermill.
There's a watermill, indeed.
And
We've
it's
got
a rather
gardens
nice
with it,
looking watermill.
He doesn't do gardens. He needs to do gardens.
You'll notice that quite a few of his buildings actually have backyards.
Yeah.
Which is better than the foreground ones. He also does, on top of the Eastern Europe, the Western Europe range, there's quite a big range of Russian log cabins and churches and farms and barns. And he appears to have just embarked upon a Southern European range. There's what looks vaguely Italian looking house.
I just found the load more button at the bottom of the screen.
Yes.
Yes.
yes. That's a bit fatal, that, isn't it?
Oh.
And he also does quite a few of most of these that he does in 15 are also matched in 20. And he's slowly amassing for the people who play Chain of Command in the scale which God intended you to. He's also started on a range of 28s.
Fighting too.
I had to go there, I know.
15 mil.
Yeah.
15 mils.
Also, as a complete aside, he does some MDF printed roads and pavements, which, not my cup of tea. But if you're a Wings of Glory player, he does some quite nice game aids that for turns that probably save you having to faff around with cards quite as much, which looks rather nice. So, that's Starfort Miniatures.
Yeah, they're very pretty.
Those tall houses are quite nice, and the
Aren't
corner houses are nice.
Yeah. It's just so nice to have a different range so that you can make your Normandy village not look like it was all, not like it was all made by Foreground. Okay, so you've now got Sarissa, you've got these people, you can throw in some nature bits, but you can actually have a French town that looks like it evolved rather than was built by Lindsay Parkinson in the 70s. I wonder how many people remember Lindsay Parkinson.
Or you can have a French village that's looks like all Starfort.
Yeah, I mean they're quite nice in that they have a commonality of style without being cookie cutter.
I like the garage, little garage.
Little garages. Nobody's done one of those before. That's rather nice. I'm in love with the watermill. I have enough French farms, otherwise I'd buy another one.
You can never have enough French farms.
I've got 3.
Well, that's it.
4?
You need 4 then, don't you?
No, I've got 4 actually.
You need 5 then, definitely.
I've got the commission figurines one. I've got La Haye Saint. I've got the other Warlord one, and I've got a cheapy one I bought on eBay. So I've got at least 4.
La Haye Saint, that doesn't count.
Well, it does, mate.
No, it doesn't
Anybody
count.
then I keep thinking about a 15mm Hugomel, but we'll see. Anyway, so that's Starfort Miniatures. StarfortMiniatures.com, all one word.
Yeah, worth checking out. Okay, one last thing. 2 products that have just come out. One which is Kickstarter, but they're now launching commercially, which is Drop Fleet Commander, and the other thing that has launched is launching this week. Certain company happen to be relaunching Blood Bowl.
Said other company has also just started a new social site forum called WarhammerCommunity.com.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, considering the reason why they got out of doing social media.
Wonder what happens if you mention squats.
Amongst other things. Yes.
Get banned, probably.
Yeah. But anyway, the reason we mentioned those 2 games is that one of our mat providers of choice, gaming mat providers of choice, Deep Cut Studio, have been producing some very, very, very pretty gaming mats relating.
Now, have we established whether that line is copyright me or Jake Thornton yet?
I was about to say patent pending on that particular phrase from either you or Jake.
Yep.
But yes, they have produced some orbital game mats for Dropfleet Commander, which look for all the world like that they were satellite shots taking of yes, or various parts of the world or have you. They're pretty. And yes, lo and behold, all of a sudden there are an awful lot of fantasy football fields arriving for games of because all of a sudden Blood Bowl is bubbling up again.
Yeah.
Very pretty products. It'll be interesting to see how Blood Bowl does. Interestingly, at the time, I mean, I know it's got a huge following and always has. At the time, it was the only game in town. It will be interesting to see how it does, especially in a world where Guild Ball exists.
And Dribble. If Mantic haven't completely shot themselves in the foot with Dribble too yet.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting talking with Jake last time round. When we were talking a little bit outside of the interview, and we were talking a bit about Dreadball and that, and he was musing, I think, whether or not, because obviously again when Dreadball came out, Dreadball was at the time the only thing in town because Blood Bowl wasn't around, and then in the meantime between Dreadball 1 and trying to get the organised play coming out, Guild Ball came along and got their organised play right. So all of a sudden you now have Dreadball, which, I mean, I haven't played version 2, but version 1 is a blooming good game. You have Guild Ball, which I played a couple of games of and I quite like. I've still got to play a lot more games of Guild Ball before I fully made up my mind, but I do quite like Guild Ball. Of course, now we have Blood Bowl coming back, and Blood Bowl is obviously the granddaddy of them all and has the pedigree and the fan base.
I'll be interested to see what it's like compared to the original, which was great as a casual game, but one of those things that if you took it seriously...
When you say the original, I mean which version are you talking about? I think
1 or 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think we ended up playing... Was it 5th edition, Dave?
I had 2nd.
Yeah, it was.
Which actually made it into our D&D campaign, would you believe?
Right. I had 2nd. Wasn't 2nd the one with the astrogranite pitch, or was that 3rd?
It was indeed.
Second,
I am given to understand that it was much like Tournament WoW or Tournament Fantasy, in that if you played it casually, it was great fun. Once you got into the realms of people who were trying to exploit the rules to win, it became no fun at all.
Mm. And it was still quite a long game.
That is also true.
Playing a full game, a full-on game did take a while. Which is one of the reasons I think why I like Dreadball so much, because it was a lovely streamlined game, and even when you were going full on and still learning the rules, it didn't take much more than an hour and a half. So it will be interesting to see what they've done with it.
Yeah, but that said, the mats look really nice.
Indeed.
But then they're deep cut. Whatever have they not?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been playing. I've been shotgun pretty much constantly on one of the deep cut scrubby plains with a bit of mud, or whatever it's called, mats, for the last few weeks. To the extent that for all I have hills and terrain tiles, I've started actually bringing hills in to tuck under the corner of the mat and just drape the mat over it, just so that you have a nice consistency of surface. And it looks really. If you look at this week's battle report, you'll see that table is not flat, but it is still all deep cut mat surface.
They are definitely up there when it comes down to guys who produce some of the best mats on the market. Mm-hmm. They're very, very, very good indeed, and they are producing so much stuff at the moment. Their catalogue is now massively extensive and pretty good.
They've got the process nailed. Face it, once you've figured out how to make persistent, non-creasy, non-fadey, anything else you need it not to be, mats on their 2 preferred substrates, it's just a matter of keeping your art department fed, so to speak.
Right, is that about it for the news?
Some sad news to disrupt the usual levity that is Meeples. Quite a few of us, I suspect, may know Nick Hawkins, who's a member of the Peterborough Club, was working on the Sharp Practice 2 variant of Flintlock, which I think he'd been working with Hobbsy on, as well as props and pilots. I'd spent an awful lot of time discussing 3D printing with him. Sad to relate that he passed away on, we think, Monday. I had a mail from his brother this morning letting a number of people, including the club, know that he'd died apparently quite suddenly from some completely undiagnosed condition that he'd probably just slipped into unconsciousness and died. So quite a loss to the hobby, actually. He was a regular on the Lardy lists. I think we all had dealings with him one way or another. As I said, I spent a lot of time talking to him about Sharp Practice, props and pilots. He gave me some 3D design files for some aircraft. He had a encyclopedic knowledge and collection of really, really obscure World War II fighters. I've got sitting on my print bed waiting for you guys to stop talking so I can make noise with the printer, one of his models of a Hawker Hotspur, which I'd never heard of, which turns out to be something that looks like a Hurricane with the rear gun turret from a Bolt & Ball Defiant, sitting on the printer, which I was been meaning to print for a while. I think I might well leave running overnight just to see. He was a great guy. As I said, he was a member of the club, and we will miss him greatly, I think.
Indeed. I think, was he the guy who invented the phrase diesel punk?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I mean, Nick was a listener, an avid listener to the podcast. Always used to bump into him and chat for several
He was another who could talk for England, it has to be said.
Yes, but yeah, he was always chatty to him at shows. Lovely chap. Yeah, I mean, so I was only chatting to him at other parties, and we were talking about the latest developments with the props and pilots and what have you. Because as I say, we play myself and Dave played a very early version of that back at Lardy Day. 3 years ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
That would have been back when it was still called something like Crimson Skies, wasn't it?
It was something. Well, yeah, something like that.
It had a certain degree of. It had some more diesel punky overtones at that point, didn't it?
It did very much so. Yes. I think it. I think it's. It obviously. I think it very much changed and evolved. Really nice chap. What a shame.
Yeah, I mean the games he was working on. As I said, I mean Hobbsy, you were talking with him, weren't you, about Flintlock being adapted for Sharp Practice?
Yeah, when I started doing that, Nick sent me a mail and just went, "Look, I've been thinking about doing a similar thing. Could I help out?" And I jumped at the chance, and we emailed each other an awful lot, and I ran rules past him and came up with some great ideas, and we had some brilliant arguments about stuff.
Sounds like Nick.
But he was just a nice guy, and I had a lot of respect. A lot of respect for him.
He'd bring those Flintlock adaptations to the club. We had a couple of fantastic games. He brought all the scenery and some tables which look really, really good. And some of the Flintlock figures are just so delightful and so delightfully whimsically painted as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
as you say, he's a sad loss in 55.
Yeah, he's only 55.
So he will be massively missed.
Indeed. Sad stuff.
Yeah. Go tell your friends you appreciate them, just in case you don't get another chance, folks.
Yeah. And best in peace, Nick.
And now it's time to hear from you, as we open up the Meeples and Miniatures mailbag. So we thought we'd slip in a quick mailbag question. we've wandered off to the post room in the bunker, and Mr. Whitaker has had a bit of a route around, and he's come up with the following question.
Which is actually from Richard Crawley on Facebook. There was a little bit of answering and to and froing went on about this on Facebook, but it's too good a question to miss. So, from Mr. Crawley, a question for the Meeples crew. A freak accident leads to your entire wargaming collection being destroyed. Fortunately, household insurance pays out handsomely, so you can afford to replace everything. Do you, A, consider this a sign and vow to take up another hobby like building dry stone walls or training ravens to fly underwater? B, replace your existing collections like for like? Or C, take the opportunity to reassess which games you play and in which scales? If the answer is C, what games and scales do you pick? Right, can I raise a very important point very early on in this question?
Yeah, go on then.
Is your household insurance going to cover your miniatures collection? Because I'm not sure mine is.
That's actually a really good point. And not only, and you know, let's put the other thing out there, because as Mikey so often reminds us, we're not just a podcast about miniatures gaming.
Did I say that?
Also, yes, all you board gamers out there with massive collections of board games.
Yeah, I'm just looking behind me at two shelves of...
And I say, actually with not so massive collections of board games, considering the current cost price of most board games.
I was just about to say, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's about 25 or 30 board games on the two shelves behind me.
Mr. Luff,
and...
Mr. Luff, you have a bookcase full, don't you?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And what, you'd be expected to pay £50 to £70 for a good board, £30 to £70 for a good board game these days.
A lot of those are out of print, to be honest. Now we don't get hold of them.
I mean, look at, for example, and I'm not in the least bit upset about it, what I paid Neil for Duel in the Dark, which was perfectly reasonable, and was a bit more than that.
I don't think World Without End. I don't think that's in print anymore, is it?
World Without End, or the other one.
Yeah.
What was the first one?
Oh God, I have to go downstairs and have a look, aren't
I?
Pillars of the Earth.
Pillars of the Earth. Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, have you got those two?
Yeah. Neither of those are in print anymore. Yeah. I mean, no. I've got Pillars of the Earth. Dave, haven't you got the 5 and 6 player expansion for Pillars of the Earth?
I have.
Yeah. Yeah. Pillars of the Earth, all World Without End, are no longer in print. Pillars of the Earth is an absolute classic.
Just looking at things that are in print, there's a copy of Dead of Winter up there, which I know was £70 when I bought it.
We used to play Pillars of the Earth, followed by World Without End, didn't we?
Wow.
We did that. We did that one Sunday at Manacon.
Yeah, I think we did it a couple of years on the trot, actually.
Yeah, something like that.
But there, stepping back from that though, let's look at.
But yes, Duel in the Dark. Duel in the Dark. Oh, Duel in the Dark. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous
It's rocking all poo on eBay though. But I mean, let's look at what Hobbsy pays Gareth to paint figures. And think what a 50 man sharp practice force is, including the figures and the paint job, £200 to £300. So, as I said, does your house insurance actually cover your war games collection?
It depends on your insurers, doesn't it? It depends if they class a collection or a single item, or whether they class it as individual items.
Yeah, I can just see the claim now, can't you? Claim 4 times Perry's painted French infantry 1812 at the march, £5 each. And as soon as you start doing it as a named item in a collection, it probably gets to the point where that's a named item of value more than X amount, and your insurance company won't pay up unless you've listed it. So,
indeed, and therefore, everybody, does it get to the point where you think, at this point, do you need to also have photographic evidence of your entire miniature collection and game collection?
And if so, can you get away without showing it to the wife?
But certainly from an insurance. I mean, yeah, it's something I've never thought about.
No. Until Richard asked this question, it hadn't occurred to me. But just the way he phrased it, I suddenly thought, there's another really good question in there, isn't there?
Ouch. Well, David be all right. David be fine.
Having given all our listeners heart attacks.
And having looked on eBay, well, I'm allowed to mention that word. Don't know if I'm allowed to mention that word.
Go on.
You can actually still get World Without End new. About 40 quid.
Oh, that's all right.
43 quid.
Oh,
that's fairly reasonable.
But you can't get Pillars of the Earth anymore, and I bet you can't get the expansion either.
For love nor money, believe me, I've been looking for the 5 or 6 player expansion for Pillars of the Earth for quite some
the
time.
5 or 6 expansion that went before the base game went out of print.
Yeah. I have been looking for the 5 or 6 player expansion because the 5 or 6 player expansion is actually really good, even for the base game. But no,
there's a copy of the base game on Amazon.
Yeah.
£393.36.
Cheap at half the price.
Indeed. I must be tempted. I must be thinking. I'd be very tempted to get something like World Without End, because that is a cracking game. Except for the fact that Dave's already got it. So why should I bother?
Exactly. You just keep buying all the Kickstarters, Neil. Oh yeah, I've just bought this really good Kickstarter.
Oh, they just released the all-in. They just released the all-in pledges for Mythic Battles. I am going to be so poor next year. Oh my word! Oh,
I haven't dared look.
So many more models still planned. Yes, that is all in. If you wanted to buy absolutely everything for Mythic Battles, it would set you back $500. There you go.
Thank you so much to various people for completely shafting the exchange rate. Oh, there is a copy of Pillars of the Earth on eBay US for $150. What's worrying is that's almost reasonable.
Yes. So, how much is your collection actually worth? Secondly, what was it? Part deux.
Let us assume that you are sitting here clutching that massive insurance payment. Do you A, consider this sign and vow to take up Dachshund knitting? B, replace your existing collection like for like? Or C, have a complete reassessment of what you're doing?
Dachshund knitting. Are there enough doors in your house?
A very good question. So, I think my answer to that would be a combination of B and C. There are some things I probably wouldn't replace. My Ancient Britons spring to mind. There are a few things that are sitting in the unpainted pile that I may well not rebuy not to be painted again. And I'd probably cough up for some 6 or 10mm American Civil War. But I think I'd replace most of the 15mm and 28mm World War II stuff. Very definitely. So that's me, I think. What about you?
That's very restrained, Mr. Whittaker.
I thought so. Luffy?
Oh dear, I'd reassess everything actually, to be honest.
Finally admit the error of your ways and play Chain of Command in 28mm?
No, not a chance. Never.
It was worth a try.
Having said that, the thought of having to make all those roads again is enough to destroy me.
There's an argument that says that given
Don't make me drive much on the road, Neil. I don't want to drive much on the road.
Look on the bright side. You are, one assumes, getting compensated for them in their state of being painted and done. So you can always go to someone who makes very nice, flexible roads in a painted state and buy them off them.
It's not the same as doing it yourself, though.
Yeah, but we'd make Gareth a rich man.
I wouldn't have a problem, actually. I haven't got a problem with... Not that I ever have, but I haven't got a problem with paying someone else to do them. I wouldn't.
What would you reassess then? What would you not do this time round?
I don't know, actually. Probably because I'm not much of a magpie when it comes to wargaming. I probably would do everything I've got now, actually, thinking about it. But
so you were lying.
Yeah,
you were lying.
Yeah, if you think about it. I think the thing is, what I actually probably would do is, because a lot of the stuff is now sort of like, a lot of the ranges that they've been redone, especially from Bacchus. So, yeah, you'd sort of replace all your Napoleonics with the new ones and replace your Ancient Britons with the new ones. They'd definitely be sent away for painting, because that was the army that nearly broke me, painting those.
It's all those different coloured leggings, isn't it?
Oh crikey! Yeah, that was painting irregular war bands. No, never again. I think I'd be more concerned though about my board games actually, because I'm actually just flicking through our famous internet site for auctions, and I'm just looking at the prices and just going, yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So, yeah. I mean, it has to be said, especially if you've been playing board games for a while, you do get to the point where there are some board games that are irreplaceable.
El Grande, the big game box.
Oh, yes.
You're looking at nearly £100.
Haven't you basically got that?
Yeah.
Because you got the anniversary edition, didn't you?
Yeah, and I bought it for £20. Yeah. I have warned my family actually in the event of my death, don't just send it down to the charity shop. Some of this stuff's worth a lot of money. Especially the painted armies. Just stick them on eBay.
What was the comment I saw? I live in mortal terror that when I die, my wife will sell my collection for what I told her I paid for it.
Oh well, I haven't got that problem, so that's all right.
I like that quote. Rather interestingly, obviously, people who've been following the show for a while and will follow the columns that I used to write for Miniature War Games will know that I kind of done a little bit of this anyway, because I had I went through a point where I had a massive reassessment because having spent years under the constant barrage. What have you just found?
Just found Hamburg.
Oh, of course you got Hamburg, haven't you?
It's £50. Oh my word! Sorry.
You paid what, £5 for it?
Yeah, no, it was free.
Yeah, I'm not reiterating that story. You might get found out.
It wasn't my fault.
Oh dear. Yes. Yeah. So I kind of reassessed my collection a couple of years ago now. So actually, my answer is halfway between B and C. I did reassess my collection completely, because I had a humongous collection of board games, didn't I, Dave?
Yeah, just a few.
Yeah, I think when I totted it up on Board Game Geek, because I recorded everything I had on Board Game Geek, and admittedly this does include like war games rules and expansions and stuff as well. But I was clocking over 500. Which, by anybody's standards,
and that's not quid either.
Yeah, games. Yeah, and yes, by anybody's standard, that's a lot. And I had a major clear out, basically because, again, having been drip fed for years, somebody going on in the background saying,
"Well, I've always said that the trouble is if you buy something new, you're watering down what you already enjoy playing."
I had that week in, week out for years.
Yeah, well, I was only encouraging you because I was just nurturing what was already in your mind already.
Was he right, Neil?
Actually, yes and no, but primarily yes.
Oh, there's a way of saying it, giving the answer begrudgingly.
With a side order of no.
Yeah, he's getting a bit. I've noticed in the past month or two, he's getting a bit magpie again. He is, Mike.
You need to have words, Luffy.
Yeah. Ooh, shiny.
My resolve is weakening. I was so strong for so long. It's calling me back.
What was it we said about poor impulse control?
It's all very well having all this stuff, but the trouble is, you can only play so much.
Yeah, and ultimately, this is the thing. This is the thing. I mean, there's stuff that I bought. I mean,
well, we've got to the point, haven't we, where we just look at things and go, is it any better than what we already play? No, then we don't buy it. Basically, aren't we?
The vast majority of the time, yes. And there is stuff that even a couple of years ago, even a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, I bought and was really enthusiastic about and thought that was brilliant. And now kind of thinking, dare I say it, Dreadball. A fantastic game. We haven't played it for 2 years?
No. We kickstarted it as well, didn't we?
I have pretty much the entire season 1 of Dreadball. It's all sat in a plastic box in my spare room, waiting to see the light of day. Would I replace it? Again, it's possibly not. It's one of these. You know this thing about they always say about you realise if you need something by what you do. You put everything in a box, and if you haven't opened the box in a year, it's pretty much certain that whatever's in that box you don't need. Or at the very least, you've learnt to live. You've learnt to live without it. So potentially, you could get rid of it. That's quite a dangerous statement to make because that kind of defines something like 70% of my, well, maybe even more than that, 70 to 80% of my gaming collection.
Well, that's one of the many reasons why I got rid of Kingdom Death Monster.
I was forgetting how well you landed on your feet with that, Mr. Whitaker.
Did you see the final? Final?
I did see. Yeah, you can afford to go all in on mythic battles.
Absolutely,
because Kingdom Monster bloody well paid for it. What was it, 360 quid in the end?
Yeah. Even if you knock eBay fees off that, it's not bad.
It's not bad going, is it? Well, yeah, I mean, knock eBay and PayPal off it. You still got you'll still see more than £300 for that, won't you?
Which, when you consider that I paid $150 for it at the time the exchange rate was 160.
Yes, sound investment. I mean, Dead Zone. Stupidly, I mean, we're talking about. I was so impressed with Dead Zone. It's still in its box. It's never come out.
So's mine.
I have buildings which I made buildings for Dead Zone out of a whole host of bulkheads that I bought for, guess what? Necromunda. I bought shed loads of plastic bulkheads for Necromunda for building scenery, which I never used. And then when Dead Zone came out, I thought, I'll make a load of buildings. So I've got a whole load of buildings which are basically made out of bulkheads and plastic card. Well, they're half done. They're kind of, the shells are built and they need painting and doing up. And they're set in a box. Would I replace Dead Zone? The buildings probably. The figures, most likely not. There are certain ranges that I would definitely replace. My collection of Copplestone Future Wars, I definitely replace because I love them. Despite the fact that they're still unpainted, I love them.
Your French 6mm Napoleonic army.
Yeah, I'd go for that.
That huge army you've got.
That huge army that I got, which is subsequently been completely resculpted. Yeah, by Mr. Berry. Yes, I'd replace that. My huge 6mm Roman army, which has subsequently been resculpted.
Your Persian army.
Persians. Oh yes, I'd definitely do that. Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any opposition for them?
Yeah, Romans.
Countrymen.
Yeah. Okay. My collection of my hassle-free Grim, I definitely replace. even my Vaser, my iCore Vaser army, which I mean, one of the reasons I got them was the fact that they are some of Kev White's earlier sculpts, and they are just superb. Especially things like the Archangels, which are just lovely. I definitely replace those. So there's certain collections that I replace. There's other things that I probably wouldn't. And as I say, there's this again. You know, we suffer so much, and as Dave said, we suffer so much from having these huge collections of stuff. I think I've said before, in some ways, I envy those people who only ever collect for 1 or 2 periods, and only ever game in 1 or 2 periods. I still don't think I could do it, but I envy those people who can and do. Because I look around and I have so much stuff. Yeah, would you do it again? It's a really it's a horrible question. Thank you so much for asking that one.
We're all going to have nightmares.
Yeah, and everybody who's been listening to the conversation are now going away going, oh, do I need that? Do I need this?
And where's my insurance policy?
And where's my insurance policy? The one thing that would be irreplaceable is my 15mm World War II collection. I would definitely replace that. So that's both my painted Germans, my unpainted Germans, and my unpainted Americans. I would definitely replace those.
Strangely enough, same here.
And no, I wouldn't go 28mm.
Yeah, that would be a mainstay actually for me. I mean, to be honest, if you turned around and said to me, "That's the only thing you're going to play with for the rest of your days," what would you buy, or what would you replace? And it'd be my 15mm World War II stuff.
And it goes back to a conversation that, or goes back or forward to a conversation that we have had and will have again with Rich Clark. You know, I mean, I jokingly said, "When's the next pint-sized campaign for Kong coming out?" And he turned around and said, "Well, basically, you could spend your gaming life replaying all the campaigns and all the battles around Normandy, 1944."
Because let's face it, if you're going down the platoon scale, there are so many little actions.
If you actually boil down, as I say, I think we've done the disc one before already. I think we've, but yeah, I think it boils down to if you could only replace one collection, it would be my 15mm World War II.
Whereas I would probably replace, even though they're in the process of being sorted out to be sent off to Gareth to be painted, my 28mm Peninsulas, for the simple reason I can always drive over to Leicester and play with your stuff.
I like it. And of course the other thing would be, yes, you definitely replace Command and Colours.
That's 2, can't do that.
There's a board game and a system that just keeps on giving.
So, that was a question.
It was. Yeah,
good one, Rich.
It was, yeah, thank you for that. And I think that's about it for the mailbag.
Or one question of it.
Well, yeah, it was a big question. It was
a good question. Indeed.
We're a friendly, fun-loving, and generally mild-mannered bunch here at the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. But don't annoy us, because then we turn into very grumpy gamers.
Can I have a rant? It'll be a short one.
Okay, you can have a rant, we'll let you.
Right, so I was meandering around the recess of the internet. This is a rant with the serial numbers filed off for reasons which will become fairly apparent fairly shortly, when I found somebody advertising a piece of War Games paraphernalia. Something that would make your table look nice.
Right.
And I thought to myself, my, that's nice. And then I thought to myself, have I just pulled one of those off my 3D printer?
Really?
Aha. So, this is just by way of a slightly cheesed off plea for the rights of the folks on the likes of Thingiverse. Now, most of them make their wares available for free. Most of them, however, do it with a Creative Commons license. If anybody's actually listened to the end of this podcast, you will note this podcast is also under a Creative Commons license.
Indeed.
Now, most of them, Creative Commons licenses there are a bunch of clauses that govern whether you can modify it, whether you can share it. But the two that I want to actually touch on a little bit here are, there is a no commercial reuse, which says if you want to make money out of this, you can't without talking to the author. And there is an attribution, which is a basic bleeping courtesy one, which says, please credit the author. Yes. Now, you will notice that when I 3D print stuff, there is a tag somewhere on the page, and if anybody finds one where there isn't, please kick me and make me put one there, which credits whoever it was designed the file that I'm currently printing. Now, there are clearly people out there who are making money out of people's Creative Commons licensed, usually almost inevitably attribution, and in quite a lot of cases no commercial use stuff on eBay. And in some cases they're, I suspect, printing things directly, and I can point you at things which are so obviously resin cast from a 3D print, in that you can see the striations on the sloping surfaces.
Indeed.
So, personally, I think this is, let's be absolutely brutally honest here, this is up there with recasting. This is flat out theft. And I am, without any compunction, if I spot something like that, I am going to dob you to the person who owns the file. And I will make absolutely no apology for it. And if you can't find it in you to follow the terms of your license, then I will also not be doing business with you. End rant.
This is something we haven't talked about yet in 3D printing, which is something that, we talked about offline, haven't we, Dave? About this. And it is going to be the spectre that raises its head.
It is.
As the technology becomes more apparent, and because essentially, as not only 3D printing but 3D scanning becomes
high quality and in the home,
high quality in the home.
Now, 8 years ago, I was told it was never going to happen.
Yeah, quite. Now, those really nice trucks that I've been producing, as I mentioned earlier, are 3D CAD designs by a chap called Marcus Bergman, who lives in New Zealand, and they are a labour of love. Step back and think about it for a moment, and let's go through 15mm tanks, Battlefront, Plastic Soldier Company, Forged in Battle, Skytrex, GHQ, Skytrex, and everybody who's basically bought various bits of the Skytrex range, and there's a couple of others. Peter Pig, there's another one, Command Decision. So, there aren't that many people out there who produce 15mm quality, and if you go down to, some of these will scale down, so you can go down to 10mm and add all the ranges at 10mm. He is producing stuff which certainly, if you'd shown me that compared to some of the not so early products of Battlefront or Forged in Battle, there's not a lot to be had between them quality-wise.
Yeah.
He's doing it for nothing. He deserves that tip jar sitting on his Thingiverse has already had some love from me because I think he's blooming well earned it. He deserves the respect. He's basically producing stuff that's on a par with the design teams of some of those companies. He deserves recognition. He deserves, if you want to use his stuff commercially, I actually asked him because I thought to myself, there's some of these that are sufficiently obscure designs that maybe it would be quite nice to be able to 3D print some of these and say, ask Ruben at Peer2 Collectibles to sell them. You know what he charges? 5% of retail. and it goes straight as a donation to his favourite charity, which I think is the MS Society of New Zealand. That is not an awful lot to ask, and a bit of courtesy and respect to someone who is doing a brilliant job for the hobby.
Yes.
So the answer to an earlier question that I think somebody asked me is, if you want me to 3D print stuff for you, yes, I will, and Mr. Bergen will get his cut.
Because, after all, and as we've discussed on this show, or will be discussing on this show, people have creative rights.
Absolutely.
Creativity, it's an art, it's a talent, and should be recognised as such.
He's a thoroughly nice boy. From my brief email exchange with him, he's a thoroughly nice chap, and he deserves it. And besides, where else can you get that many trucks that fast?
Indeed. Cool.
It's in some ways, it's kind of like what we were saying about the Hex Terrain people. When you realise on Sunday night, oh crap, I need an Opal Blitz for this scenario, and you haven't got one.
Yes. If you happen to have a 3D printer,
which I have.
Yes, indeed. It just needs.
So anyway, that was my little rant, because I was, as Neil will tell you from the email he got on Sunday night, I was a little peeved.
You weren't best happy. How long is it going to be before you're 3D printing and it colours as it prints?
That's what I was going to say. Someone needs to Neil will be straight in on that.
Two things you should know already. Colour Fab do an olive green, which is a pretty good match for American armour. And one of the things I am proposing to do in the next month is send my printer back to the manufacturers for the dual head update, which allows it to print in two different colours of filament. I appreciate that's not the same as effectively producing something that is of any arbitrary colour you like as you print, but two colours get you an awful long way. Particularly, for example, one of the ones, if you're doing things in bits, you don't have to print it. Quite a lot of these 3D printed things. That Sherman Jumbo I showed you is in 4 bits. The higher res model of the Dodge, the Deuce and a Half, has the chassis and the tyres and the body as 3 separate bits, so there will be nothing to stop me printing the body in olive green and the chassis and the wheels in black.
I just wonder how many of the, let's say, established miniature makers out there have got this on their horizon and they're going, what are we going to do? Because this new tech's coming in.
Well, good job Hobbs is not here, or we'd still be talking at midnight. But there is. It is gonna
happen. It is gonna happen. And
I said to you when we were at Gripping Beast, if somebody said to me, "You are hereby sentenced to play the rest of your days 15mm wargaming with 3D printed vehicles," I'd say, "Fine. Where do I sign up?" They're good enough. They're certainly good enough for tabletop, and it'll only get better. This I have here is 0.3mm horizontal resolution, and anything down to about 10 microns vertical, which is enough to do the point where you can't see the layer markings on slopes.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the printer that you've got, I mean, I was seeing that sort of tech was about 5 years ago, but it was horrendously expensive, and no one could afford to buy it and have it in a house.
And the one I recommended to, was it Jeff Bond was asking on?
Yeah.
Twitter. The Da Vinci one is about half the price of mine. It's not quite as fancy and it's not quite as plug and play, but it's pretty much, it's a enclosed home printer. You can just sit there and fire and forget.
I went to a big show last year actually while I was at college, and they had a really expensive 3D printer there. I don't know how much it was. It was like silly o'clock price, but the stuff that was churning out was absolutely phenomenal. No.
Yeah. The thing to be aware of is the things we're talking about here are filament deposition. They basically put it down in layers, and you are restricted by the fact that gravity is not your friend. So overhangs and things are tricky. But what's coming up on the horizon now and coming down in price at a rate of knots are what's called SLA, stereolithography printers, which basically use a tank of resin and lasers to solidify the resin. Whoa, cool tech, huh? And fundamentally what happens is that your print platform rises up through or falls down through the resin, acquiring solidified layers of resin as it goes from the lasers, and which gets rid of your problems with overhangs and such. And those are currently at the. Somebody will probably flame me if I get this wrong, but they're at the $1,000 to $2,000 mark, depending.
No, the metal ones are already out there as well.
Yeah,
because they're being used in the jewellery trade.
Yeah, Moore's law, which is the one that basically says everything computing doubles in power every year, applies just as much to price in reverse. You just sit and watch the price on that fall, and you're going to be able to buy a desktop SLA printer for well under $1,000 before 2018, 2019. It's not the same with that. Hobsy tells me I'm wrong, is it?
Pushing against an open door here. I mean, crikey, 8 years ago I was told it's never going to happen. You're never going to see them in houses. Too expensive. And I said, of course you will. Well, the tech will come down in price.
I'm looking at one right now.
Yeah.
Sitting above my head on a shelf.
It's
wife friendly. It's quiet.
It just does make me think, if any of the main manufacturers are out there and just thinking about it and going, you know what, this is on the horizon. We need to start thinking about what we're going to do now. Because, I mean, in a different scale, this is where the music industry had problems. When Napster came on the screen,
exactly.
You know, everyone suddenly was like, it just caught, it'd been around, it was coming, everyone could see it was coming, that was into their music. And then all of a sudden it happened, and the music industry was just, well, it was like the Titanic, wasn't it? It just couldn't move. It was so big, it couldn't shift.
To be fair, one of the things I was ranting about is actually a very sensible first step, which is that we're still at the point where, for short-run pieces, white metal's too expensive. You can do metal for vehicles particularly. Metal's all right, but it's clunky. It weighs a ton, and it's quite a pain to do. PSC style plastic is great, but your tooling costs are massive. And the step that people probably will wind up moving towards is 3D print a master and resin cast it, because resin casting is still dirt cheap.
Yeah, but that's
when you
them,
get
isn't
to
it?
the point where the price of 3D printing something and the time it takes to 3D print, which is another issue. Let's face it, there is. Because of the physical properties of printer filament, it is always going to take me at high resolution 4 hours to print a tank.
But what I'm getting at, I know what you're saying is that, I mean, and I think Hobbsy always picks up on this and thinks that that's what I'm talking about. It's not so much the big companies using it to produce their stuff. I'm just thinking of the loss of market for them when you can download off the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
You want a Panzer IV, do you? Oh, well, here, go on the internet. You can download,
Thank you very much.
There's 6-7 different Panzer IV files that you can download, and that one's £1 and that one's £5. Oh, I'll have the £5 one, thanks. And all of a sudden you're thinking, well, you know.
It moves the economics. This is the other interesting thing. If I'm Battlefront, I have to have a certain minimum run in order to make it economically viable for me to produce the particular obscure variant of M3 half track with whatever random things the American decided to hang off the back of it this time.
Yes.
And if I don't produce enough of those, it's not economically viable for me to produce, say, the 81mm mortar variant, because I'm only going to sell half a dozen.
It almost makes
if you move the manufacturing and the economy and the scale to me as the punter, I only have to print one.
This is it,
because
and
the Blennerville bust scenario book only needs one.
This is how it's going to affect. This is possibly how I see it. It's going to affect the established bricks and mortar companies producing figures. Is that people are just going to go, well, I'll print one off.
Yeah, Hobbsy is right. I hope you're listening here, Mike. In that figures are the hard one, because
but it will come.
It's going to come because the detail's going to come down. Vehicles are easy because there are a lot of right angles.
When I was at this show
also, vehicles are easy because you don't need to be, and this is no disrespect to Marcus Bergman, who I'm sure is, you don't need to be as good a designer or with as sophisticated a piece of design software to do a tank or a lorry as you do a figure.
Well, when I was at that show last year, they were already producing figures, and
Yeah.
they were brilliant. They really were good.
But they were
And
probably larger scale, weren't they?
they were slightly larger scale, but they were on. They were 28 mil sort of size,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit bigger. But
I've
obviously, they were on
tried.
really expensive printers. Really expensive printers.
Currently, the issue with figures, I've tried on here with various figures of various scales, and the real issue at the moment is that when you get down to 28 mil to an extent and 15 mil, you're running into problems with how thin bits of the figure have to be, like spears and bows and swords and stuff, and you have to start making compromises, but that's going to go away.
Yeah,
That is going to go away. It's a market. It's here now for tanks. You don't have. Sorry about this, Battlefront, but if you want to play 15 mil or certainly 10 mil, if you want to play 15 mil or 10 mil, buy yourself a 3D printer and print your tanks, and that's going to start. It's going to start moving it's going to raise a massive problem. At the same time, it's going to start moving the manufacturing and the economies of scale from I have to produce 300 of these to make it viable to how many people can I get to pay for the design? And the problem is going to be how do you police the designs? And this is subject to the original rant. What's to stop? And I have a suspicion it's going to take the 3D print version of Apple Music or something like that, where it becomes, sure, you can pirate MP3 files, but when it's so easy to walk up to iTunes and say, I'll have Miranda Lambert's latest album, please, click, then you'll have hit the point. Now, and things like Thingiverse, great, but Thingiverse is by design free,
right.
And with tip jars. There are some others the thing about things like iTunes are that they are so beautifully tied into the device on which you use the content. And we haven't quite hit the point yet where my printer is sufficiently well integrated with the equivalent of the iTunes store for 3D designs that it becomes less effort to do the right thing.
Yeah, which is what happened in the music industry.
Yeah, when we hit that point, and somebody needs to work out work out the necessary magic to make it happen, or necessary software magic to make it happen, then this problem will, as it appears to have done in the music industry, largely go away. There was this big, horrible, nearly 10 years, I guess, in which everybody was going, oh crap, I'm getting my music pirated. But that does seem to have died away. What with Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music and so on and so forth, and ditto for video content, ditto for Amazon Prime streaming video, nobody punts around, nobody bothers just pretty much with BitTorrenting videos just to get TV series. You just say, sod it, I can't be bothered, sign up to Netflix. Well, that went on longer than I expected.
Yeah, it's showing its own.
Right, I've got that out of my system.
To be honest,
I've got that out of my system, I think.
To be honest, I don't think we really do enough of this sort of stuff, to be honest, sometimes. You know? Sort of, I don't know, pseudo-politics of the gaming world? I don't know what you'd call it.
If you enjoyed what turned into a slightly longer rant than we expected, dear listener, please let us know. Got Luffy talking.
Oh, it's the sort of thing that I'm into, to be honest. That sort of side of things. Yeah.
Well, as I say, yet again we're at the end of the show. We hope you've enjoyed it. That's about it, guys. So thank you very much for spending the time and being on and chatting. Always good to have you both on. So thank you to Mr. Whitaker.
You're very welcome.
What are you printing next then?
Probably an Opal Blitz, depending on whether I can bother to go and find a kit out of the garage and glue it together instead.
Okay, fair enough.
It's really hit the point where I can either throw a vehicle at the printer, or I can go and get one of the Zvezda Opal Blitzes out of the box in the workshop and assemble it. And
Crikey, it's getting to the point where you'd rather spend 4 hours printing it.
I just get to the point where I'd rather hit the button and walk away for 4 hours and do something else.
It only takes. I mean, if you've got the kit and it only takes 15 minutes to assemble it.
Yeah.
I'll hold you to that, Neil.
That involves glue and mess and putting the bits in the right place and stuff. Okay, and the resulting model will be better in terms of detail, but
Only marginally.
not sufficiently better. I don't know. It's a fun thing. So yeah, of the things I need for next week's scenario, I actually need to assemble a couple of kits. I think, because having bought them, I may as well. Other than that, I think I'm okay actually. So nothing for a while.
And also thank you to Mr. Luff.
Oh, crikey. Yeah.
Who needs to go to bed by the sound of things.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Needs his beauty sleep.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because he needs to be up in time for us to arrive to play Conan tomorrow night. As opposed to the last time multiple people arrived at his house and woke him up.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so, yes,
Alrighty.
Conan tomorrow, and and then we'll kind of go from there. So, thank you both for your time. More than anything else, thank you to you guys for downloading and listening to the show. So I hope you've enjoyed it. And we will also be announcing the result of who gets to read and review the Mr. R.P. Riesle's and John Lamsed's book on designing and publishing war games.
We have had entrants.
We've had quite a few, actually. So, there was I thinking we were going to get one or two, and actually we've had quite a few. So thank you to everybody, and results will be announced in the next show. So, all that's to be said is happy gaming, and we will catch up with you very, very soon.
Have fun, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.